LBS Tech Leap Initiative, Mr. Dotun Adeoye. Let's welcome them. Let's encourage them. Mr. Dotun Adeoye, co-founder AI in Nigeria, and then Dr. Vincent Olatuji, National Commissioner, CEO, Nigeria Data Protection Commission, ably represented by Lady Ibukuoluwa Owa. Let's welcome. Over to you now, sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guests, it's happy to be here amongst friends. I'm a member of IOD, so I'm excited to be home, and it's good to see everyone as well. And well done for a stellar performance in putting together the third beautiful conference. I think a round of applause for that. We did rush our keynote. I don't think it's very well, it's not balanced to rush people when you present, but trust me, you are going to get 2 for the price of 1 from this panel that's been put together by this erudite scholar. Please give yourself a round of applause. AI continues to give in Nigeria and continues to change the chasm of how governance is seen through a board. And we moved from the communication and information age into an AI era. And so what does that mean? There are different risks that precipitate in an enterprise, both on the public sector and the private sector. When we see strategic risk, we see regulatory risk, we see other repetitive risks, we see ethical risk. And the AI finds itself in that entire lens. And what we'll try to do in the next 40 minutes is go through different questions that are made to measure for now and for the next 3-4 years as we begin to evolve in AI, and then take it through the different journey as the context of strategic discussion is. What's the role of governance of artificial intelligence in adoption of digital transformation? But to set the tone, I'll put just some few lines together. The first thing is, as AI fundamentally changes how organization makes decisions made, I think, when it's So let's take the master one. I'm the one standing between us and lunch, so I'll have to be expeditious with time. Decisions once made exclusively by a system capable of analyzing vast quantity of information in real time. They change, and it's a board responsibility to change with it as well. Secondly, governance becomes more important as technology becomes more powerful. And the third thing is that as Nigeria begins to build out its opportunity, artificial intelligence with dynamic changes in technology sector becomes an household name. How do we arbitrage the advantage of artificial intelligence as board begins to see all those risks that the keynote does present? And so the session really is to look at all the various dimensioning of that. And I want to first drive through the lens of Dr. Vincent. Good afternoon. So when I was preparing the question, I was meant to go in the morning session, now this afternoon. So good afternoon. What is your perspective on artificial intelligence as it's changing decision-making for stakeholders increasingly? How do you assure decision remains fair, transparent, and accountable? How should organizations preserve trust in this artificial intelligence adoption as it expands? Just from the NDPC perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I stand on existing protocols. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Maz. Thank you very much for inviting my boss, Dr. Vincent Olatuji, to this gracious occasion. So in answering your question, I think I'll break it down I'll first start with what is our perspective. Well, our perspective is that AI is here to stay. We all know that we're already using it, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And we also would even want it to be used. We just want it to be used in a way that it's responsible, is ethical, and is fair. And what does this mean in practice? I'll go to that when I'm speaking about trust and accountability. So that's our perspective. We want to regulate it, we want it to be used, but in a way that is legally, is ethical, is responsible, and is fair. And like you rightly said, AI is now widely being adopted in the private sector, particularly if you look at the telecoms, the health sector, and the banks. They are really, really driving adoption of AI. When we look at the public sector, it's a bit slower there, but there are a lot of initiatives that are happening now. For example, the Nigerian Scaling Hub, which is trying to assist MDAs to infuse AI into their service delivery systems, but in a way that is responsible and is fair. And that now takes me to the next part of the question, which is how do you build trust? How do you ensure that it's done in a way that is accountable and is fair? So the easiest way to achieve trust in any market is transparency and accountability. So what do we mean by transparency? When we come to the development and deployment of AI within a company, what does it mean to be transparent? In simple terms, it means that you have to let users know. Now, users can mean your employees. It can also mean people that you're offering services to, that you are actually using AI in certain ways. You have to let them know when they are interacting with AI systems and how their data would be processed in that particular regard. And also the risks that can occur from that sort of processing. You have to let them know through your privacy policies, through privacy notices, but you have to bring this information to them. And it's very important to draw the risks to them. For example, now, if you're a company and you're using AI for recruitment purposes, it's important that you let candidates know that at some point in the process, there's automated decision making in this. And these are the risks that can occur from this. As we all know, AI is not perfect. There's hallucination, there's the black box. Sometimes it leads to bias, it leads to this. They need to know about this risk so that they can make an informed decision deciding whether or not to use your AI systems. Then you also have to ensure that you provide mechanisms in place for them to restrict processing, to stop it from processing, and to also ask for certain rights. For example, delete my data from your AI system, which can be hard to do in practice, but further research is showing that it's possible to do. But that's how to be transparent. You need to let them know what you are doing with their data and then how they can protect themselves. Now, how to be accountability. A lot goes into accountability, but in simple terms is complying with the laws on ground. The first one I would say is, and I'll refer to section 37 of our act, which says that you shouldn't allow anyone to be subjected to a decision solely based on automation if it's going to have a legal consequence on them. So that means that even if you're using AI, at some point there should be human review. It's called human in the loop. At some point in that process, there should be a human that would review the decision or take certain part of that particular decision. So that's one way to be accountable. Another way to be accountable, and this was mentioned by my colleague from NIDA earlier during his speech, is having adequate policies and procedures to use AI in place within your governance. And these policies shouldn't just be there. You should actually train your staff on these policies. You should actually put in metrics to ensure that they're actually complying with these policies. Now, the third way to be accountable is risk assessment. So before you deploy any AI system, there's something called a data privacy impact assessment. It's under section 28 in our act. You're supposed to do that particular exercise. As that exercise will show you what the risks are in actually deploying and developing an AI system. And then you can then understand what are the measures to put in place to address this particular risks so that they don't occur and you can protect data subject rights. Then we talk about continuous monitoring and evaluation. So even if you deploy an AI system today, it's important that, because we all know that AI has its own risks and it can lead to decisions that can lead to bias and discrimination. every 3 to, for example, 6 months, you should have a continuous monitoring and evaluation process to see what sort of decisions is the AI system actually producing. Is it fair? Is it reasonable? What can we do to ensure that it's fair and is reasonable? Including feedback loops, so including mechanisms for people to be able to get back to you, say, oh, I interacted with your AI chatbot today. However, I noticed that when I asked it this question, it gave me this answer, and I don't think it's true. You know, those sort of things, being able to put that in place, being able to have that. Then also some other ones is to ensure that you have an AI officer and a data protection officer on ground that can champion AI responsibility within your whole organization. One thing that we always say is that there should even be AI champions within each department, but there should be a general AI officer, and that officer and the DP officer should be able to interact with the governing body regularly to explain how things are working and how things are happening.
Apologies for that. I just want to push you a bit on that as well. So compliance generally establishes sometimes minimum standard, but governance really demands considerably more than that. So in terms of AI hallucination, compliance officer, and risk that you mentioned, just in 2 minutes, how do you think government should lead, and how do you think industry should lead as well in these two, which is just round up in 2 minutes? Thank you.
So how government should lead? The first way is having a clear policy on AI. We already have a national AI strategy document in place which advocates for the responsible and ethical use of AI. That's a very good starting place. Another way that AI can lead is actually allowing for regulatory sandboxes in place, for people to be able to test their AI products, but doing it in a way where you can bring up relevant regulators into one room, so that during that process you have data protection regulators telling you that, oh yes, your AI is good, however their safeguards are not here. Need that regulator also being there as well. If it's a financial product, the CBN2 is there as well. If it's a telecom product, NCC is there as well. So they're able to guide you. So what this will do is that it will encourage safe innovation in a way that it allows innovation to thrive, but at the same time, the safeguards and guardrails are in place as well. It's also important that government should ensure that they try to come up with capacity building initiatives to increase AI literacy within Nigeria. And there are several initiatives that are going on now, mostly being championed by NICTA. So that's for government. But when it comes to industry, I think where industry can really fit in is coming up with codes of conduct for the use of AI in certain particular industries in a way that will be used that is safe and is secure as well. Industry too can also have their own sandboxes as well that will champion innovation, and they also have a role to play in AI literacy and AI training as well. So I think that's how government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is a very sound and quality contribution. You can see that we have a very gender balanced, panel. 2 female, 2 male. So we're really, really balanced. And if you look at it, most boards think they're balanced, looking at financial numbers, looking at shareholder value, looking at credibility. That's what they used to look at, and compliance and governance. But AI is now throwing something very different into how a board thinks about this. And as a gentleman that formed AI Nigeria, they've been doing a lot of work. So, Doctor, I'm coming to you. There are 2 questions I'm going to ask you. What aspects of artificial intelligence make it fundamentally different from what the wave of digital transformation is happening? That's number 1. And the second one is that what practical advice would you offer organizations seeking to adopt AI responsibly over the next 3 to 5 years? Thank you very much. You can take it away.
Even though you didn't ask me, we made the name AI in Nigeria to adopt and adapt AI for Nigeria, because like most other waves of technology, there was no Nigerian version, and most times it doesn't work. Now, in terms of the distinct difference between the kind of AI that's been around since the 1940s and the AI that started in 2022 is that it's generative AI. And that is very topical, because if you think about what's happening now, before you need to be a geek, you need to be an expert to create an AI product. But now, anybody with data In fact, sometimes maybe without data, there are some offline AI applications you can play with. But the real thing is, once you have internet connectivity, you have some forms of data, you can create AI. And the dangerous thing there is that, I like to paint the picture of giving a car that goes to like 300 kilometers per hour to someone who doesn't know how to drive and say, just go and drive. So that's the difference, because before, you need to be able to code, you need to be an expert, you need to know Python and some technology stack. But now, so deepfakes and all those things, I can just write 2 sentences and say, remove my head and put the head of this person. So this is very different, and there's a democratization of AI, which never used to be. That's the first part. And where there is no sin, there is no, there is no law. You can't penalize when there is no law, there is no sin. Sorry, the other way around. Yeah, but I think basically organizations adopting AI over the next 3 to 5 years, I would say that the first thing they will need to think, there are 2 things: governance and training. So if you start with governance, it's fantastic, but a lot of employees will not know why you are governing. So it's important that organizations understand, responsible AI, understand the danger of why if you upload sensitive official data and document into ChatGPT or non-regulated AI tools where you're sort of doing shadow AI, what it's doing to you. And somebody mentioned this, that you uploading the official document, you are helping your competition to develop their business by sharing your proprietary details and documents. So organizations rolling out AI should start thinking about educating the workforce to understand what to be done and what not to be done. Understanding a lot of the concept of responsible AI, why governance has to be applied in certain way, why the governance framework has to turn certain areas, and understanding there have to be champions in different departments. So those are the things I will prescribe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. So it's tipping the discussion on his head, because when NIGDA presented, they talked about trust and data sovereignty. We see the different regulations from CBN and things like that. Whilst I like Olu Akomu to think about that, because I'm coming back to you, sir. Ijoma, in AI, governance issues and things like that, conversation that inevitably moves in the boardroom, how should board rethink of their responsibility in this new era? That's part 1. And part 2, should every board possess a minimum level of digital competence? How should directors satisfy themselves with management in deploying artificial intelligence? That is a very, very 3-way question, but it's board pack question that I'm sure the audience is willing to listen to. Thank you very much. Please take it away.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to everyone that has stayed this long. We all know how afternoon sessions can be. Forgive my croaky voice. I'm recovering from a flu. Mr. Moderator, sir, I think I'm going to answer your second question first. And the short answer to that is yes, right? You have said that what is the minimum competency that the board should have, but I want to rephrase the question to be, what digital competence should the board possess, and not how should, at this point in 2026, the question board should be asking themselves that, what digital competence should the board possess, and what does that actually look like in practice? So we've heard all the buzzwords. AI has come to stay. AI has been democratized. Organizations are using AI. Our colleague from NIGDA, who laid the platform for us, spoke about several issues. He talked about the different levels where people were at. There's ad hoc, there's managed. And I think that I think the highest level is, so for the board at this point, what the expectation is that there is just a baseline of AI literacy that a board is expected to have. So you cannot delegate that function anymore. Some boards are there, oh, we have a chief technology officer, it's not enough. Or like my sister here said, she said you can have a chief AI officer or whatever nomenclature organizations use. But we are in 2026 and AI is more than technology. It has legal implications, it has ethical implications, and more importantly for the board, it has reputational implications. And that legal risk sits squarely with the board. You, in your personal capacity as a board member, has become liable all of a sudden for technology that you say is artificial. So there's a baseline of literacy that the board should have, and that baseline should be, you should be able to understand the organization's AI deployment. What can or cannot this AI do? What is a regulatory environment? For instance, you have organizations in different jurisdictions. You should seek to understand the regulatory environments of those jurisdictions. How is it affecting the organization's competencies? Is there a risk there? And if indeed you have an AI officer, you should have that literacy to be able to ask the hard questions, because as board members, that is what you have to seek to do, to interrogate the systems that are being used in the company, because you have to work, in this case, from the answer to the question. Right. I'm not saying you should go and become a data scientist. We don't expect board members to become data scientists. And we have all accepted that not all board members need to be accountants. But you cannot be a board member today and say you do not have a minimum level of financial literacy. So the same goes for AI. Your ability to interrogate management accounts, your ability to, query the CFO of the company and read the numbers, those abilities you need to begin to upskill them as a board member because of those risks that AI has. And how do you begin to prepare yourself? Most boards already have a risk and audit committee. You need to expand the mandate of the risk committee because AI is a risk. Most people will come to you excited. My co-panelist has said, oh, it has been democratized. And the excitement is that, oh, it makes the organization more efficient. This is what 1, 2, 3 can do. We're faster. And our peers are doing it, and we also are doing it. But the approach, more than opportunity, it is indeed an opportunity. But as board members, risk sits squarely, especially within the audit and risk committee. So you should look at it through the lens of risk. Okay, yes, you have told us what this can or cannot do. Who is training this AI? What is training this AI? What are the models that we have? What are the backup models we have if this AI fails? Is there a risk of confidentiality? And depending on where your organization sits, it can be small, it can be an organization that uses data intensely. What are you doing about data protection? We all see the news and we see our enforcement, what the enforcement and the regulatory agencies are doing this, and the huge fines that are being slammed on some organizations. My co-panelist is here. She's smiling because she knows, and the ones that they are preparing to slam. So as the board, yes, you should look at the numbers, but everything ties in. If you do not begin to train and get that fluency in AI, then you will not be able to ask the questions that should be able to reveal the answers for you to make decisions. But the board already have the competencies needed. You have the leadership competencies, you have the risk competencies. So now it is to bring it home, there needs to be a minimal level of fluency. expand the mandate of the audit committee to tell them it is not just about the finances, AI is also included in your mandate. Somebody has suggested get a chief AI officer or some other person that is responsible for that. And it is not because some people think, oh, it's just, oh, the algorithm. The algorithm is the one that is working, but you also need human competencies.
Okay.
People that you can hold responsible.
Responsible. So I hear you. Responsible ownership. The matrix of the board has been expanded. You can have algorithmic risks or automation risks, biases, and things like that. So let's come back to Mr. Akomu. Artificial intelligence is often presented most of the time as a technology breakthrough. People talk about all this big language that people get a bit scared of. We need to break it down a bit. Increasingly, the board appears to regard it as a governance issue. What is your take on it? What needs to change?
Yeah, thank you. Let's go through a couple of key issues and maybe start from some area we've not spoken about. At the board level, there are three set of in the government. One is strategy of the organization itself to AI. The second, of course, which has been discussed, the risk, reputation, and compliance issues. And of course, the other one is the competency of the board itself. But at the strategy level, I want to speak on that, if that's the only thing you hear from me. The way in which the board framed the strategic question of governing AI is very important, and I will illustrate it. 90% of board naturally will frame strategic questions about efficiencies of the business. How do we get more out of our existing business and increase profitability? If it's a bank, a lot of the AI question will be around how do we reduce our cost-income ratio? Or how do we reduce our cost of risk with AI? And that is very good. But there's a second set of questions that the board typically may not ask, which if your computers ask those questions, they will disrupt you. And that is, with AI, where are the markets that we have traditionally ignored, that we don't even believe existed, that with AI, we could go and unlock those markets? Now, the two questions are different. 90% of the time, boards will focus on the efficiencies and management. And I can imagine my HR colleagues, it will be about how we're going to reduce headcount in the call center from 10,000 to 200 people because we are very glad. Or somebody else is thinking about unlocking new markets entirely. Now, I've been on both sides, on the board of a bank and fintech. And the thinkings are different. Illustratively, let me use something we can all relate to. Point of sales. Okay, we know the way we think about point of sales. In banking, the point of sales machine is about getting more out of our merchants in terms of collections. That's all that we think about. Give the ShopRite more machines. We collect more deposits from them. Somebody else takes the same point of sales machine and see 60% of Nigerians who are not using financial services with digital technology and say, how do I use this same technology and unlock those markets? It's the same way in which board may strategically frame narrowly the question of AI governance. Are you going to ask a balance of exploiting what you are currently doing, getting more out of what you are currently doing, or also asking that hard question of where are the markets that we are not even playing at all that AI can enable us to get into? If you are asking AI a question of your management and they can provide answers immediately, then you are not asking deep enough questions. Because the second set of questions are going to involve experiments. They are the kind of things which they are going to do iteratively, be coming back to you from time to time before you get it right. And that's perhaps the biggest opportunity of AI. So the framing is very important. We've talked about the reputational issues and so on. What I will just mention about that is that the transparency of the logic of the algorithms to the board matters. And you don't need to be a techie to measure the transparency. The transparency will be measured in the outcome of the decisions that the AI is taking when you review. When you review decisions commercially, risk, and so on, is it making sense? The third issue I would like to quickly talk about is the potential for management that is smarter than the board to capture AI technology and use it for itself against the long-term interest of the firm. If the AI logic and the algorithm is such that prioritizes the bonuses of managers in the short term, and decisions that they are presenting to you at the board will be such that you are not maximizing the opportunity of the future, where management have been on both sides. We call something IBG, YBG, I be gone, you be gone. Where if I can kick the risk forward, AI will not capture it. By the time AI capture it, I will have left at the CEO. Somebody else will carry the car. If you cannot have the transparency and the competence at the board level to see those issues, you will have the classic principal agent management problem in terms of AI governance. So those are the three set of issues, and I think we can keep digging into some of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for him. Well, keep digging. I'm not going to leave you. I want you, because we're going to now take it home. I think we had a fantastic keynote. I was writing and learning, and it was just a stellar performance from our keynote speaker. And she did mention on how we need to move from level 0 to level of complex industrial, standard. And that beautiful equation that she gave really brings it home. So, Mr. Akomo, as Nigeria begins to probe on national prosperity, we're talking about $1 trillion economy. It depends on a lot of us, on a lot to govern that across all the verticals, known and unknown. What are your take on the responsibility of governance in that? Just in 2 minutes.
Big question. National prosperity means shared prosperity. As AI is so good, it has the potential to create big, narrow winners. Because there's increasing return to smartness of AI. Only 2 or 3, 4 companies will win. And that means a lot of people may leave behind. Only few shareholders will make money. So regulation, first and foremost, the board must ask questions beyond profit. Is it making us money, but is it leaving people behind? A good, responsible board must ask a balance of profit and social impact questions. The second one is that we must not trust the company. Sorry, I've lived corporate life all my life. You cannot trust corporations on their own to be responsible. Where there are potential for market failure, where technology will not be used for the benefit of society, but will be used narrowly, regulators must intervene and compare, for example, open algorithms, make it available to everybody so that society can benefit maximally. The third one, of course, is national sovereignty. We do not want our data to be hosted in China or in US, not to the benefit of our people. Data protection is very important. The last one I would like to mention is that we must have a 3-part governance of AI for it to benefit all of us. Don't trust the firm, the corporations. Corporations must be there responsible. Government regulations. The last one is a powerful civil society that do not trust business, that puts corporations on their toe, that they are doing the right thing in terms of inclusive benefits of AI. Between the three, powerful civil society, watching corporations, responsible corporates on the other side, and government, those three triples and AI in the middle, that is when we will have an AI that is working for society. We need powerful NGOs to monitor what will be a powerful power of corporations that AI will give. Powerful NGOs are very important. We cannot trust business on its own to be responsible if nobody is watching it and putting it on its toes. Thank you.
Our regulators, what do you think? National prosperity, data sovereignty, trusted cloud, trusted AI, responsible AI, AI hallucination, all those big buzzwords. Let's take it home in 2 minutes.
Yes, just like the learned prof has said, government has a very key role to play regarding strict enforcement and ensuring compliance. In our guide in Article 43, we have a certain article that really deals with what the parameters are for deploying and developing AI. So what do you have to do? How do you test your particular product? And how do you test it for disparate outcomes? How do you take it back to a limited circumstance, and then we work on the same products, retool it to ensure that it is safe and secure. So I think that we really have a huge role to play in ensuring that the laws that we have set in place are actually complied with. But even when they're not complied with, we actually take strict enforcement measures. And if you see the trend and what we've been doing, you will see that the NDPC has moved from a stage of awareness, capacity building, and we're now going into strict enforcement. But as AI is still at the foundational level regarding regulation, you may not see that sort of strict enforcement now. But as we continue to go up in our journey as regulators, you see more and more strict enforcement. But it's important to ensure compliance with the laws on ground and that strict enforcement measures are taken.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ijeoma, can you layer a bit into that as well? Just take it home in 2 minutes.
So I agree with my co-panelists. It has to be strategic. I don't think the technology is evolving so fast, and a lot faster than regulation or any policy that anyone can churn out. But there has to be some strategy to it and thinking ahead of the curve. We all know that the technology is going so fast, so there has to be a base policy and a dedicated team, depending at what level, whether private or public sector. So even within the public sector, while they are still trying to understand one technology, another one is evolving. So there has to be a PPP of sorts between the private and the public to make sure that this artificial intelligence, this very useful artificial intelligence, but also very dangerous artificial intelligence, is streamlined, is structured, and there is fair and just policy across board to make sure it yields the desired outcome nationally.
Thank you very much. Dr.
So 2 things, and I will draw from a couple of things my panelists have mentioned. I think the first thing is that boards should kind of understand that you don't need to be an accountant to have financial literacy, to be able to sort of read within financial reports. You know, that's taken for granted. So with AI, as AI is evolving, boards and board members should understand that a basic level of literacy should be achieved. And these days, it's not that difficult to achieve that. There are so many opportunities we can help, but I think generally we should think of that. The other thing is that I've listened to my co-panelists, and I was smiling when the lady from NDPC was talking about enforcement coming, because I've been saying in my presentation that NDPC used to bark, now they are biting. So I think everybody should take note of that. But that segues nicely into my last point, which is, no, we've not really looked at the Nigerian flavor of AI. So any technology, Nigeria know they carry last. You know, we are different, and we are very ingenious at how we use AI. So boards need to think of that, the Nigerian factor, because governance in the UK, governance in North America, governance in Asia will be different to the Nigerian one when it comes to AI, because we think differently. We're special people. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much. We think differently. We are special. Nigeria, they carry last. Nigeria AI. So in closing, I think corporate governance always existed to ensure organization, government, and public create value that is responsible. So artificial intelligence does not diminish that responsibility, but what it does is that it expands it. In Nigeria, for Nigeria to realize its full potential in AI, as a catalyst for this 1 million, 1 trillion, 1 billion, whatever number we give it, it must travel a smooth, innovative journey along governance. Technology and trust cannot be evolved separately. So innovation and trust in technology must go like twins. They must develop together. The quality of our governance will ultimately determine the quality of our data transformation. I'm so excited about this panel. Thank you for doing justice to this. A big round of applause for you, and thank you very much for the session. Thank you very much.
Once again, let's give our discussants a very warm round of applause. Thank you.